You guys came through. Whoa, this is Bert live from jail. That's actually Doggy Kennel. She gets her own room. Um, she's 13. Deserves it. But seriously, thank you guys. You guys, 500 likes. So I owe you guys a physique update, quad day, and then a physique update. And don't forget to like this video. If, hey, watching these things, you get something from it, because guess what? There's probably someone out there who might get some from this too. And hey, like if we make the world a better place in which to lift, yo, that's a great thing. So thanks, guys. So here we go. Quad day, physique update. And when it comes to the physique update, I want to hear y'all's opinions. All right. Hey, so there's something about a day, whether you have leg days or a full body split, a day where you have a nice amount of quad work. Like there's something both intimidating, yet you're super excited, right? You're anxious, excited, you can't decide, and it's just and so rewarding. It's if you really about this, it's one of the best days in your training week. So that's what we have today, quad centric day. Before I start with the day's main squat pattern, I like to perform some hamstring curls. In this case, a lying hamstring curl. I'm doing myo rep sets to save time. And how many, it just kind of depends. Usually it's one activation set and then 2 to 3 myo rep sets afterwards. Just kind of depends on the day. But yes, so this is stimulus. I'm going decently hard here, but its main purpose is that it makes my knees feel really good by the time I get to my squat pattern. This is something I learned from John Meadows, actually. And you can go at it pretty hard, and you're not going to be nearly as beat up as you think by the time you do get to your squat pattern. And that's because hamstrings, well, they're not doing a whole lot on squat patterns. So yeah, it kind of doubles up as some extra hamstring volume, but most importantly, they give me a lot of confidence in what I'm about to do next. They warm me up really well, but you guys will see. So my squat pattern is like super knee dominant. So we start with just the bar because, dude, look at the knees. So I am on some wedges. In this case, these are the prime wedges, the 20-degree ones. And as a, I guess, you could call it a loading increment, but instead of, well, my progression here rather was I started to bring my squat shoes, and these are the Nikes. So it's now the 20-degree wedge plus the Nike shoes, which is 3/4 of an inch. And whew, yeah, it brought down my loads a little bit, but I don't mind, just because it does allow me to get to my working load a little bit faster. I think this is my last warm-up set. But yeah, how my warm-ups work, it really just depends on the day. If I am feeling, just tight, maybe a little achy, on those days, I would actually rather warm up a little bit more and maybe lose a little bit off my top end capabilities if it means it's just safer. Today was not one of those days. Actually, I felt pretty good. So my warm-ups were pretty abbreviated. It was basically the bar to a plate, and then I got to my working weight. And yeah, so prior to throwing on the shoes on top of the wedges, I think I was doing, I'm just gonna add this up as if it were a free weight squat. So this is 185. I think I got to like 235. So yeah, it cost me a few pounds, but I don't mind, because at the end, you're just creating a longer moment arm. So it's the analogy I like to use is, I think of using a gallon of milk, like holding it here, it's about 8 pounds. And if you hold it out like that, it's still about 8 pounds. So because of what I'm doing with my knees here and how much they're kicking forward, and again, the hamstring curls before this, they really facilitate this for me. But also, I've always had, like, historically no issues with my knees. Not only that, this is something that I worked up to in increments. right? So this much forward knee tracking has been a progression going back to last year, where just slowly on the Cybex hack squat, my favorite hack squat, I was kind of inching my feet down. So yeah, first working set, and tell you what, when you're really lengthening muscles, they just kind of short circuit on you. So that might look like, I don't know, maybe RPE 7, maybe RPE 8, but it was probably closer to a 9, I'd say. So yeah, after that first set, I believe I was losing reps pretty rapidly. So yeah, think about it. Like on a high bar squat, you'll never really see like a 3-second high bar squat, 4-second high bar squat, but you can see that in a low bar squat because nothing is really as lengthened in the case of the high bar squat, the quads, right? Whereas like with a low bar squat, there's, yeah, the glutes are lengthened a little bit more, but the quads not as much. And so with those, you can get more grindy reps. So with exercises where muscles are very lengthened, and there's a lot of torque taking place at those in ranges, like when you're done, you're done. Like there is no superhero rep really. So all of these sets, I'm going a little bit closer to failure than it might seem, which again, I have to do these days because I'm kind of limited on time. This squat stance is not for sweep. I need sweep. I'm all teardrop. It's just how my hips work best. So that was the second. This was the third. And I believe, so look how many reps I lose. Was this the last one? No, next one's the last one. Tell you what, man, one thing about failing on especially squat patterns, I think when we first start out, like a lot of it's in here, right? And then it happens a few times and then you're like, oh, it wasn't all that bad. More on that notion in a bit. But after that, so that was a hard movement. Wasn't heavily loaded, but trust me, that was difficult. I like to have like a little intermission movement. And in this case, it was calves. So by intermission, I mean something that is just easier so that I can get myself together as I approach the next hard movement, which is going to be yet another squat pattern. So this is literally just almost purely, with the exception of calves and those hamstring curls, a quad day. It's just been the easiest way for me to kind of blow things up in terms of training split, because training has been inconsistent. So I can just go, for me, it's been the most practical setup. With the calf raises, one thing you will notice that I'm doing here, big long pause at the bottom. And this is going to make it so that it's not the stored energy in your Achilles, because tendons, again, they're stiff. They're so much more elastic. They store a crap ton of energy. And this happens to be the Achilles tendon, not just in my case with these super high calves, but when it comes to every human being, the longest tendon in the human body. So if you're just kind of bouncing out, I don't really think you're doing calves. Sure, some people can get away with it, but I'd almost argue that as a rule of thumb, the more lump-sided your muscle belly to tendon ratio is, right, the higher your calves are, probably the better you are, like the better off you are actually, not just pausing, but like really pausing. And when I first started implementing this, it was like a 2-second pause, made all the difference in my calves. Like within a year, I went from no calves to some calves. And then over time, I've just been lengthening the pauses, mostly because high reps for calves kind of sucks. And so, yeah, personal preference thing. But also, I think over time, because I don't care how much I lift with my calves, I've been progressing with him at a very responsible rate, like minimal setbacks, because I've been responsible with it. To the point where like now they're super strong calves. On that note, this movement is just body weight. Give it a try, just body weight. Like pause at the bottom for say 3 seconds, like 3 real seconds. And I guarantee most of you guys out there will not be able, and with a good stretch at the bottom, as deep as you can get, most of y'all won't be able to get 10 reps. Like I can say that pretty confidently. So yeah, calf machine here is kind of it kind of lightweight broke on me a few weeks back, so I'm kind of afraid to use it. And it's one of those where like the platform where you put your feet, you're just slipping half the time. So perfect solution. This is actually what I did during the lockdown, and like it was probably the only muscle group on my body that not only didn't decay, but actually made some significant improvements. So yeah, usually after that squat pattern, this is my little intermission lift to, again, get myself together so I can get ready for the next thing that's hard. But in this case, today, I was low on time, so I had to superset them. So we're using the Cybex squat press, leg press. And in this case, this is a wide stance for me. You'll be able to appreciate it a little bit more from the next angle. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because, hey, a little bit more adductor meat. So a lot of folks think wider, more glutes, when in reality, ask anyone who pulls sumo. They're like, nah, it's my glute, it's my adductors that are like pretty fried after a good day of pulling. So this is wide for me. And much like a lot of it's just my hip anatomy, but also I just haven't toyed around with wider stances very much. So much like with my knees going forward on my main squat pattern for the quads, over time I will be spreading out my stance little by little. The key is to be patient with it. That's how you not only do you not hurt yourself, but actually that's the main thing, is that's how you don't hurt yourself when introducing these new ranges of motion. So supersetting both of those, and this was my second set. You can see that actually my reps drop off quite a bit. This is super challenging, guys. Like and again, the key with this one, you can't see my hands, but it's like to not push yourself up, just kind of grab onto something to balance yourself, but don't push yourself up. Like it's crazy how embedded it is in us to find the most economical way to get to point B on movements. When sometimes in bodybuilding, it's like, no, it's like the exact opposite. It's like, hey, okay, let's find the hardest way to get there, basically. If you have big old calves, a huge incentive to, like, just naturally, right? A huge incentive to get to perform these, I'd say, would be that they're probably going to help out your very knee dominant squat patterns. One thing I have seen, this is just a general trend and just my observation, is that people with lower attaching calves, they tend to not have as much ankle mobility. So think of it as like not doing this for your calves necessarily, but just for, your quads and the integrity of that ankle joint. But you could also just get some wedges, and that's gonna fix things up quite a bit. So I really like the primes. They're kind of overbuilt. They're heavy, and I have to lug them into the gym, but there's so many options. But one thing about the prime wedges is that, dude, those things are, again, I'm be able to pass them down to my kids should they want some quads. Next set, I'm actually taking that squat press to failure. And this is, well, again, because I'm low on volume, but also one thing about this machine, the strength curve. So here we go. We got this thing here. So you can see that on that squat press, that Cybex squat press, it's like when the movement starts, like the plates are running parallel to the floor almost, and then they go up, so it's hardest at the top. So sometimes for me, it's like the most lengthened bit of it isn't really even fully cooked, and I could even get some like baby reps with it, even though I have no more access to the lockout. So yeah, I like pushing it on this one. But I'll tell you what, the thing about going to failure is that if you can remove yourself, especially on these movements, like I guess being scared of just failing in your safety, that's one. And then the other one would be being like a failing in front of other people, right? I mean, causing a scene. And then just like anything else, the repetitive bout effect, right? Like there's no reason why your ability to tolerate fatigue isn't something that can adapt for the better. However, how you frame failure in your mind, especially in those movements, I certainly do believe plays a role in like how it's framed, but how it plays a role in how you feel it. And like for me, like I've done it enough times, like I've bottomed out on leg presses enough times, I've failed reps enough times where I'm just kind of, whatever, another day in the office. But yeah, one thing I've noticed, one thing I have learned from my current lower volume approach, just one set on this leg extension, and then I supersetted with sissy squats, which I end up clustering. Like I do a set and then rest and then do another set. Is that, yeah, it just, at first when you're going to failure, yeah, you're kind of like just like shell shocked the first few weeks, but eventually like you kind of acclimate to it, and it's just like another day in the office. I certainly wouldn't be going to failure, I think, this much if I was using more volume. However, I do think I would be using it a little bit. I would be going to failure a little bit more than maybe I was prior to like the current situation with a baby and again, training time being limited. So this was the cherry on top for the day. Basically, the sissy squat that clustered the one before ended with a stretch, something I kind of I'm playing with just because you know how it goes. It's like the analytical bros, right? Like guys that have tons of in the trenches experience that observe certain things. Like that's one thing they've been mentioning forever, is that, hey, at the end of a training day, stretching kind of just hits differently. So Dante Trudell in this case, and I believe John Meadows even talked about such a thing. So something we're playing with just to see if it makes a difference. I kind of like it. I don't know. I kind of like it, but we'll see. But yeah, that is what my quad training looks like right now. So February 17th was the day I was like, just give it to me straight. I want to see what I'm working with. By the way, this picture was taken on the same day as I took this video to analyze my physique. Look how crispy the quads look. The abs look nice. Pecs nice and round. Shoulders, hey, not too bad, right? And this brings up a very important point. If your selfie game is up here, but your progress picture taking game is down here, that's a big stone. That's a big stone, because think about it. The majority of your decisions come from, like, is this working or not, right? You try something and then you look at the end product, and that's how you decide. So if you haven't peeped our course, the Physique Photo Guide is in the 3DMJ Vault. Do yourself a favor. Take your bodybuilding to the next level. Some of the most important data people sleep on. So front relax here at about 172 pounds, using the same setup that I recommend in the Physique Photo Guide. Back relax, a little dull. Physique definitely looks a little dull. So again, about 172, 173 maybe. And then this is May 12th, Mama's Day. They're all asleep though. This is like, it's almost midnight. All right, this is about 178. Looks more alive. So maybe the last few months haven't been a total wash. This is kind of a tweener weight on me, where it's like I'm not lean, but I'm not big either. But I'll tell you what, if you look, the thing about that lighting is that if something's kind of popping here in your everyday life, where like light's hitting you from all sorts of different angles, oh bro, is it really popping? Like those little things in my triceps, those little lines, dude, get me in everyday lighting, oh, they're there. So that's the comforting part. So the before's on the left, the after's on the right. I see a few things. A few positive things. Think quads look definitely a little bit more alive. I'm not collecting too much around my midsection, even though it's been about 5 pounds, so that's pretty good. But what do you guys see? I want to hear what you guys see, and then in more detail, I'll tell you guys what I see. But not too bad. This makes me feel good about how the last few months have gone. They haven't been perfect, but again, I've been staying on like my default diet biz, another 3DMJ vault course, right? My big rocks, as I've said before. So maybe there's a little something there. But yeah, you guys tell me what you see, what you think, and hey, you know what? These pictures kind of did make me feel good. I'm not gonna lie. But next up, we got to do something like formal. because it's time we get on a strict plan and really try to do better. So next check-in, I'm gonna take you guys through what that plan is going to be. The training, the nutrition, all of it. We'll break it down together.